Howdy do. 'Tis I, Antonio D'Amico. This is Pointy Hat, and welcome to D&D with a Twist. The show where I go through my little overpriced dragon game books, open them at a random page, and absolutely go to town on whatever I land on. I give you a rundown on what the thing I've chosen is in normal D&D, and then I change it irreparably and give you something you can use in your own games. And you get to be the judge in the comments if that change was for the better. So when I think of Druids, I think of...
We're gonna bring our own drinks. We have Berkey water. If you guys take the fermented cod liver oil as a treat, you can have fermented garlic and honey. Blessings on the blossoms, blessings on the roots. Let's head to your learning station. Here we are.
Druid is the class for hippies and people who refuse to use deodorant because of the environment. So hippies. Druids are the crunchy moms of the D&D world. Experts on natural magic, they are the class most likely to cry if they forget to charge their overpriced crystals on the light of the full moon and judge you if you don't buy organic. That's right, it's another spellcasting class, and this means we get to play my favorite game. What poorly defined source of power do these guys use for magic? Through the medium of pure grade granola and Whole Foods gift cards, Druids unleash the raw power of nature on their enemies and friends. They call on the elemental forces to harness their power and dominate those that go against the will of the land. And then they go to whatever cottagecore hell they escaped from and have supper. Because you know that Druids are the type to say supper instead of dinner. So with this quick overview out of the way, let's dig deep past the organic matcha tea powder and grain-free sun-dried raisin cookies and figure out what these guys are about by looking at their abilities. Druids get a whole bunch of abilities, but their signature one is Wild Shape. All Druids get Wild Shape, and every subclass uses it differently, which is my favorite way of doing signature abilities, so big +1 to that. But the basic use of Wild Shape is to turn into a beast. That's right, contained deep within the power of nature is the power of furrydom. Druids can turn into a beast they have seen before, yes, any beast. Kinda. In a very video gamey move that I am 100% in favor of, the abilities and strength of the animals you can turn into are gated by level. Let me explain. Starting at level 2, you can turn into any animal with a maximum CR of 1/4, provided they don't get a flying or swimming speed. So just a walking speed, and I guess some climbing and burrowing speed. This means you get instant access to your biggest furry contenders, so rest easy, you can still turn into a wolf from the get. At level 4, you get access to animals of CR a half with a swim speed, for a fish-themed anime episode. And at level 8, you can turn into any beast with a CR of 1, including flying ones, to really torture your DM. You might think this is powerful, and you'll be right. But guess what? It's even more powerful than that. Yes, you can't cast spells during Wild Shape, but going into Wild Shape doesn't break your concentration or stops ongoing effects from taking place, so you can very much set up a spell and Wild Shape in your next turn. You also retain your big sentient humanoid brain, so you can actually be of use to the party as opposed to polymorphing yourself into a big dumb monkey and instantly running away from the battle. And you retain any features that your class, race, or background gives you. But the biggest reason why Wild Shape is so immensely powerful is that it basically turns you into a boss monster. When you Wild Shape, your hit points change into those of the beast you Wild Shaped into. And if those are depleted, you turn back into your actual form with the hit points you had before transforming. Yes, you literally get 2 HP bars with this. 3 HP bars since you get 2 uses of Wild Shape, and you get them back to back on a long or short rest. Get creative with the beast of your choice, and a Druid could very much be the tank of the party. It's an extremely good ability. Some might say it's too good. The biggest downside to it is honestly carrying all the different beast stat blocks with you and learning how to use them and stuff, which bumps up the difficulty of playing this class by a lot. Oh, what? Why does it say that? Anyway, that's not the end. Let's take a look at the other tools in the Druid's all-organic arsenal. Druidic is the less cool version of Thieves' Cant, and it's just as useful, which means it's not useful at all. Get ready for your DM to put something written in Druidic once and then wash their hands off this ability for the rest of the campaign. Oh, also, I don't generally go over these, but Druids get a fun stipulation to the armor they're proficient in. They can't wear any metallic armor, which means that even if they get proficiency in medium armor, they wouldn't be able to wear scale mail or breastplate, which is a debuff, but it's also neat and goes with the theme. Spellcasting wise, not much to see here that you don't know. Druid is the preparing sort of caster, which means you can switch up your spells every long rest, but that also includes learning more spells and preparing them, which makes it harder to get a handle on the class. Oh, there it is again. I wonder what that means. At level 18, you get whatever the crunchy all-organic equivalent of plastic surgery is with Timeless Body. This doesn't make you immortal, but it might as well be exactly that, especially if you play a long-lived race. For every 10 years, you only age 1, so elf druids can basically chill for eternity. Beast Spells removes one of the only downsides to Wild Shape, allowing you to cast spells while in the shape of a painted turtle, or whatever. As long as they don't have any material components, since you can't dig through your pouch of dried newts or whatever it is that you use to cast spells. This of course makes makes Wild Shape even stronger, but it does make it harder to use, since you not only have to worry about the new stats and the new abilities and actions the Wild Shape has given you, but also you gotta keep track of your spells. Oh god, again. How ominous. And finally, Archdruid. Remember 10 seconds ago when I said you can't cast spells with material components while in Wild Shape? Well, just kidding. Literally 2 levels later, now you can. This does not allow you to cast high maintenance spells that demand you to send them donations to cast, but I don't know how vital it is for you to be able to cast Revivify as you hover over your party member's corpse while you're still in the form of a naked mole rat. Although, it would be funnier. This is yet another buff to Wild Shape, so yay I guess, but it does increase the difficulty of using this ability yet again, as the amount of spells you have at your disposal during Wild Shape is even higher now. Oh, you again. Okay, fine, I'll say my opinion. Druid is a good class. It's a really good class. Some might say it's a very, very good class. Some might say it's overpowered. But here's the thing. To me, Druid is without contest the hardest D&D class to play, by a wide margin. Somehow, some people think it's Wizards, no clue why. Because you can learn more spells? You get those through spell scrolls, one by one, at your DM's discretion. Druid asks you to carry stat blocks for every beast you plan on using, learn their actions and abilities, use their stats when attacking, and allows you to cast spells while you do so, and then asks you to prepare those spells every day, which means you get access to the entire Druid spell list from the start. That's insane. That's a whole lot to ask. And I can already see comments going, well, I play Druid, and I think it's the easiest thing in the world because my mom says I have the wrinkliest brain known to man. And you know what? Good for you. But it almost feels like it should come with a warning, because I cannot imagine a beginner to the game having fun wrestling with all the different possibilities for what a druid can do. So be warned, if you're not super familiar with the game, maybe consider playing a nature cleric for the vibes, or a ranger. Ugh, I can't believe that Druids made me recommend that people play Ranger. Anyway, while it's hard to get a handle on, this doesn't take the fact that Druids are extremely powerful and extremely versatile because of the amount of options of what you can do with them. And speaking of option, let's talk about my favorite part, subclasses. Druids don't have many subclasses, and for the last time, I don't plan on talking about every single one of them. Look at how long this video is already. I'm not doing all the subclasses, guys. And while most of them do tend to look and feel sort of samey, you again? Even if many look extremely alike, Druids do get some bangers, so let's get to them. Druid subclasses are called circles, which implies the existence of secret druidic sects belonging to different, darker geometrical shapes.
Rectangle girls of the world!
Your basic circles are the circle of the land and the moon, which put more emphasis on the spellcasting and the wild-shaping parts of Druid respectively. Circle of the land is for those that wanted to play a wizard but chickened out at the last minute when someone told them that they were harder to play than Druids. It's the spellcasting focused subclass. You get an extra cantrip, a less powerful version of the wizard's arcane recovery in natural recovery, which allows you to recover some spell slots with 1,000 caveats to it, so have fun, and you get circle spells. Most Druid subclasses get this, but Circle of the Land Druids get twice the amount of spells, and they are divided in lands. Depending on the land you pick, you get different spells. Arctic gives you ice spells, Coast gives you water spells, Desert gives you sort of deserty spells, Forest gives you even more nature spells, as if you didn't have enough of those already. Grassland gives you... I truly cannot tell you why these are grassland spells. You get Dream from this. Mountain gives you stone spells, Swamp gives you water and growth spells, Underdark just gives you growth spells, and Denny's Parking Lot gives you combat spells. Landstride is your move through difficult terrain ability that every subclass gets when the people who design D&D stuff, me, don't know what to give you for an ability. Nature's Ward makes you immune to charm or fright effects by Fae and, I guess, elementals? Not like elementals were planning on using any of those two. And also makes you immune to poison and disease. Neat. And finally, Nature's Sanctuary, which makes it so that beasts and plants feel bad if they try to hit you. So you can reenact that scene in every A Boy and His Ex movies where the boy needs to get his ex to leave to protect it, so he throws rocks at his ex while crying. The thing about this is that beasts and plants rarely get up there in CRs, and you get this ability at level 14, so the chances of any beast or plant posing a threat at that level to you is small to none, but hey, it's thematic. Circle of the Moon is the only druid subclass that truly captures the most powerful incarnation of the power of nature. Wolf graphic t-shirts. It's one of the only druid subclasses that doesn't even bother to give you circle spells, instead focusing on making your wild shape deadlier. Combat wild shape allows you to go into wild shape as a bonus action instead of an action, and boosts your tanking while in wild shape by allowing you to burn a spell slot to heal you, which is pretty cool. Circle forms gives you access to CR1 beasties as soon as you get wild shape. When you get to 6th level, it allows you to transform into higher CR beasts. How do you calculate what's the highest CR of beast you can use? Very simple. When you use this ability, you calculate the position of the sun relative to the curvature of the planet you are currently standing on and the one that you would be standing on if you were sent there for space crimes. You subtract them, flip them, reverse them, then you take the first digit, divide it, take the remainder, multiply it by the dividend, factor it by the circumference of the first planet, add the remainder to the dividend, find the square root of that, and that's how you calculate it. Don't forget to round it down. Primal Strike makes your attacks in wild shape magical, which I just assumed they were. Wild that this is a subclass feature. Elemental Wild Shape allows you to use 2 uses of Wild Shape at once to transform into an air, earth, fire, or water elemental, which is pretty sweet since those hit like a ton of bricks. And your capstone is 1000 Forms, which allows you to cast Alter Self at will, for true werewolf vibes. Now that we've gotten the basics out of the way, let's get into the fun ones. My 2 favorites come from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, the best D&D book in 5th edition. Fight about it in the comments, drive up my engagement, I dare you. So what are these subclasses? Well, first up, we got the Circle of Spores. This one is the grossest of them, and I love it dearly. As you can guess, this is a circle to make your very own fungi fun guy. Want to build a mushroom-themed character? Well, look no further. It's also your prerequisite undead-themed subclass that basically every class gets, but the Circle of Spores feels honestly like the best incarnation of it. Remember that Tumblr post? Decay exists as an excellent form of life and all that? I would bet money that this subclass is built all around it, and it's fantastic. Easily the best flavor for druids. They don't hate undeath. They see it as natural as life and death, but they believe that life and death is fluid and ever-changing, going from one to the other, passing through the middle states like undeath constantly. So those that wish to never ever die, or to replace all life with death or all death with life, go against their morals.
Death to all of them.
In terms of abilities, these guys are surprisingly tanks. Their circle spells don't really vibe with this, but their abilities certainly do. Halo of Spores surrounds you with gross fungi spores that harm anyone nearby, basically making it so that you have to stand in the heat of battle to get some use out of it. Symbiotic Entity is their personal use of Wild Shape, and it's fantastic. When you activate it, you channel your Wild Shape magic into your spores. You get an insane amount of temp HP, 4 by level. Your Halo of Spores does more damage, and all your melee weapon attacks deal an extra 1d6 necrotic damage. Sweet. Fungal Infestation, which sounds lovely, allows you to animate a corpse. You can reanimate as a sort of The Last of Us spore zombie that you can direct to attack your enemies. Honestly, the flavor for this is so sick that I wish the zombie was a bit more useful. Really good in fights with lots of minions, not great in anything else. Spreading Spore is even more battlefield control for your tanking needs. Basically, you create a second halo of spores away from you, allowing you to pelt even more enemies with spores. And finally, for extra creepy, Fungal Body. The magical power of your funny mushrooms make it so that you can't be blinded, deafened, frightened, or poisoned, and nullifies every single crit against you. A great tanking ability. But what if what you crave is aesthetic? What if you want pretty and not gross? Then consider the Circle of Stars. I like stars, I think they're pretty, and this subclass is very much here to bring the aesthetic. Circle of Stars Druid harness the power of mood boards and aesthetic star chart collages to create a very versatile Druid subclass. Less clear in design than the Circle of Spores, but pretty strong nonetheless. Star Map gives you a cooler looking spellcasting focus than whatever granola bar other Druids use. It also gives you the guidance cantrip, so you can scream "I cast guidance" every time there's a check happening. And also both gives you Guiding Bolt as a spell and allows you to cast it for free a bunch of time. It's symbolic. Get it? Because guiding, you can guide yourself by looking at the stars. Anyway, your Wild Shape ability is Starry 4, and it's the coolest looking Wild Shape ability of them all. If you activate it, you basically become a walking constellation with stars at every joint in your body and star chart lines connecting them. You literally shed bright light around you. It's so sick. I want to do that. But it does more than look sick. Yes, this is a Build-A-Bear approach to subclass making, and you get to make the choices every time you enter Wild Shape. You choose between 3 constellations. Archer is your DPS constellation, allowing you to use a bonus action during all your turns to make a spell attack. Chalice is your healing and tanking constellation that allows you to throw some extra healing your way or any other creature's way when you cast a healing spell. And Dragon is your casting constellation, making it so concentration checks are basically not a thing for you anymore. Cosmic Omen brings the tarot aspect of the circle's aesthetic. You roll a die at the end of a long rest, and if the result is even, it's wheel, and if it's odd, it's woe. What this means is that with wheel, you can assist your allies on any attacks, saving throws, or ability checks with a d6 as a reaction. And if it's woe, you mess up these same things for enemies. And yes, there's no cap to this ability. You can do this every turn. Have fun being better at bardic inspiration than the bard. Twinkling Constellations is a big contender for the cutesiest name given to any ability ever, and it's a boost to all the rolls for your Starry Form Wild Shape abilities. It also makes it so that you can change your Starry Form constellation at the start of your turn, and oh yeah, gives you a literal flying speed and allows you to hover around a la Hot Boy Essek. Come on, it's so sick. And finally, your capstone ability, Full of Stars. When you enter your wild-shaped starry form, you become literally incorporeal, giving you resistance to all basic weapon damage. Pop this, the Warcaster feed, and the Dragon Constellation in your starry form, and congrats, you're now a spellcasting tank that will make their DM cry before they fail a concentration check. Of course, there are many others. The Circle of Dreams, the Circle of Wildfire, and the Circle of Shepherd?
Shepherd. Rex?
Okay, so we've gone through all the druid abilities, we've gone through some of their subclasses, and that's all well and good. But what if we gave druids a new twist? So you want to play a druid?
Garlic was used to banish away vampires and snakes and scorpions. Here's some garlic that we grew in the garden our very own selves.
Druids are sourdough starter guzzling spellcasters that invoke the power of nature to try to convince you that eating bugs is the future. They are also samey. Yep, time for my second gripe with the class. Druids are hard to play, but you can learn and get over that. The second problem I have with them is somewhat harder to not fall into. 99% of them end up feeling quite samey. You know why those two Tasha circles are my favorites? It's because they specifically go against what a traditional druid looks like. I think this is because of their source of magic. Since druids are so intrinsically connected with nature, they end up falling in very similar tropes and looks, whereas arcane or divine magic can look pretty much like whatever you want it to look like. It also doesn't help that druids are, to my knowledge, the only class that limits the materials you can wear by making it so that you are literally unable to wear metallic armor. So knowing that, how about we first come up with a concept for a character that actually tries to go against the baseline vanilla druid look and feel with the existing class options we get? What if we tried one of the most plain vanilla druid subclass options and went in a different direction with it? And what is less druidic than robots? Gardener Model R4C was an automaton tasked with tending the manor grounds of an extremely rich family, and a gardening robot has no need for sentience. For generations, GR4C would trim bushes, feed the chickens, collect their eggs to bring to the kitchen, unclog fountain drains, and dutifully tend to the grounds of the manor. She was a silent and unfeeling witness to the history of the family, the balls they hosted, the births of new family members, the moment when they had to sell the manor to another family when their fortune ran out, the estate turning into a makeshift hospital when war ravaged the countryside, and the manor being razed to the ground as combat lines shifted and the fighting moved south. But throughout all that, nobody thought about deactivating the groundskeeping automaton. As years rolled by, and the war ended, and the forest swallowed the ruins of the manor, the grounds were still being kept in pristine condition. The fountains continued to flow, the bushes were still perfectly manicured, and the forgotten garden in the middle of the forest continued to look as beautiful as it did when the manor still stood. Nobody quite knows how it happened, but as years passed and moss grew on the artificial gardener, something else started to grow within it: sentience. Was it nature itself choosing the automaton as its protector and granting it free will? If so, how? GR4C, or as she now calls herself, Gracie, can only remember a vague humanoid shape reaching down to her right before she gained consciousness. Now, she's decided to use her free will to figure out why it was granted to her in the first place, and by whom. On a more personal note, now that she has gained consciousness, she can't help but feel disconnected from her artificial body and how unnatural her existence feels to her. She hopes that her transformation will continue, and that if she works hard to please whoever gave her consciousness, they will turn her into a true living being, so that she may join the natural world she's been safekeeping for so long. Make her a warforged, duh, and give her some cool aesthetic changes. Maybe when she assumes her wild shape, the animal she takes the shape of is also mechanical. That'd be sick. She was conceived as a Circle of the Land druid, but you could change her job to be about keeping the animals of the manor and later have her tend to the animals of the forest and make her a Circle of the Moon gal. Give her high wisdom, high con, a decent strength, and a big fat self-loathing problem against her artificial body, and there you go! A nature druid with a complicated relationship to nature and herself. You don't see warforged druids every day. But hear me out here. We've made a sort of unorthodox druid, but what if there was a subclass option that went against our most basic conception of druids, while still preserving the spirit of the class? Sort of in the vein of how Circles of the Spores and Stars nod at the baseline druid while offering a completely different perspective on traditional druid tropes. Well, druids get their power from the land. What if we chose a land that druids are just never allowed to gain power from? Hear me out, cities. Okay, so steampunk, dieselpunk, cyberpunk, those are all fine and all, but my favorite punk is solar punk by a mile and a half. I'm actually really passionate about this, so I'll try to make this as brief as I possibly can. So you might not know this because it has been watered down to high heaven, but the punk in something like cyberpunk is not just here for fun. It's meant to signify that this genre is calling out systems that are actively doing us harm in the present. Cyberpunk criticizes and goes against things like megacorporations meddling in politics, increasingly violent and militarized policing, government surveillance, and the alienation of people from the natural world by creating a dystopian world where all of those have been turned up to 11, or to current levels, or where we are right now, I guess. God, that's depressing. Now, one could criticize cyberpunk and say that it's not really doing a good job by making this future look impossibly cool. Since we're supposed to hate what we're seeing and try not to make it happen, that's sort of the point of dystopian fiction. Nobody is reading 1984 itching to make it a reality. Nobody is reading 1984 period. They just say whatever site they don't like is just like 1984 and move on. But it's still a good example of dystopian fiction done right. Many cyberpunk works made by corporations miss this point. Wonder why? That same criticism can be lobbed at solarpunk. Why? Well, let's define solarpunk. If true cyberpunk imagines a dystopian future where technology has taken over every facet of modern life, including the human body, poisoned our planet, alienated us from the natural world, and allied itself with capitalism to destroy the human spirit, solarpunk imagines a world where technology is used for the exact opposite. It's a vision of the world where we develop sustainably, and we use our highly advanced technology to develop our cities and modern life alongside nature. It imagines a free and egalitarian world. Cyberpunk is dystopian, solarpunk is utopian. Cyberpunk tries to create a better future by scaring us today into making the right choices. Solarpunk tries to create a better future by inspiring us by showing us what the future can look like. If cyberpunk is smog-filled cities, bright neon lights, and scary technology, solarpunk is renewable energy, nature existing in urban spaces, and science and technology as a force for good. Now, what could this possibly have to do with Druids, I hear you ask, as some of you hear me say the word sustainability and start frothing at the mouth. RIP comment section. What about a Druid circle that is all about protecting nature by incorporating it to where people live instead of going off to a forest in the middle of nowhere and bothering whoever dares to pick mushrooms there? Is that really the best way to protect nature? Pretend people don't exist and make sure they don't go into your swamp Shrek style? What about a Druid circle that believes that the best way to uphold nature is to make sure that people live in symbiosis with it, rather than keeping them separate? I'm imagining a tank. They can wear metal armor contrary to every single other Druid, but the whole point of their kit is dependent on whether they are standing in natural ground or constructed ground. Basically, if it is or isn't man-made. Their wild shape ability could work similarly to auras, and these could change depending on the type of ground you're standing on. And as a capstone ability for the subclass, they could literally change the terrain around them, shaping it so that they get to decide if it needs more nature or more civilization. It would be so thematic and fit the Druid class perfectly, while still allowing you to make Druids like you've never played before. Imagine playing a small local politician that loves their city, but has seen it be gutted by profiteering vultures and wants to set things right. Or what about someone that lives in this awful, highly polluted wasteland that wants to create a place where people can live safely and have access to everything they need? It'd be sick. Yeah, someone should write that. And guess what I did? Yes, the Urban Circle subclass for Druids is very much a thing. It's written and illustrated by me, and it can be played by you for free. It rhymes. You can check it out in the description of this very video right now. So go out there, grab your nearest all-natural, non-GMO, no MSG, no artificial food dye, wild forage, grain-free bowl of brown mush, and channel through it the power of nature to bring down those that wish to destroy it. And that's it. Druids are done. This was long. Druid is such an interesting class, and I wanted to make something fun that kind of tackled some of the issues I've seen with it. I do feel like all Druids tend to turn out sort of samey, so that was my first priority here. I hope you like it, and thank you for listening to my little solarpunk tangent. I love solarpunk so much. I'm not joking. I watch the Chobani ad whenever I feel down. I know it's an ad. It's ironic that it's my favorite visual example of solarpunk. Leave me alone. If I had all the money in the world, I would 100% do a solarpunk game. Like a video game. I worked in video games as like a day job. I guess most of you don't know that. I really need a way to figure out how to talk to you guys more. Maybe streaming? We'll see. For now, you can check me out on Twitter. Well, that still stands, I guess. Speaking of evil corporate magnates. Oh god. Link in the description and all that. Oh, also, have you noticed something about the drawings? For a couple of videos, I've had my friend Faye help me with them. A lot of the sketches during the twist portion have been made by them for the last couple of videos. So everybody say thank you, Faye, for their incredible work. You can check out their art in the description too. And thank you to all of you for watching all the way through. All right, I wish every single one of you an amazing 2023.
Happy New Year! Happy New Year!
thank you so much for everything you've done for me this year. I can't believe I'm standing here past 100K. It's insane. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Be careful when swallowing the grapes at midnight. This will make sense to basically none of you because I've checked my analytics, but I'll still say it. Have fun figuring that one out. Bye. Mwah.